Hello there, my name's Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if this is your first time here, you couldn't possibly have the first clue that I am on a mission to give you everything you need to be more successful in your business, providing, of course, what you need to be successful in your business is to know more about and be implementing more efficiently, more enthusiastically, and more effectively sales and marketing in your business. Because if you are going to be more successful, that is what you're going to need. You're going to need more customers more profitably, and eventually everything you need to do that will be here on this channel. So what goes on here is on a Monday, I give you everything I know about sales and marketing as part of the What the series. On a Tuesday, I bring in anyone I can find with experience relevant to you if you're looking to be more successful. That's Talk Marketing. Wednesdays are about the marketing news and marketing reviews. Thursdays will be about thinking out loud in the future, and Fridays are about reviewing the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet, which is what we're doing today. So if that sounds like it might be interesting and useful, now would be a good time to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of those good things, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey. But like I say, today we are reviewing the very best and the very worst of content on the marketing content on the internet. And when I say we, I mean me and Mr. Jim Cunliffe. Good morning, Mr. Cunliffe.
Morning, Martin. How are you?
How are you?
I'm all right. Just got out of bed.
Excellent. Had a sandwich?
Well, I'm eating a sandwich.
Okay,
it's a bacon sandwich. And I really do with a coffee and a smoke, but carry on.
Okay, good. I'm sure the coffee is coming and the smoke is coming as well, isn't it?
Might
I can't imagine you depriving yourself of a coffee and a smoke for very long. Good. Okay, good. We've got that resolved. So for those of you who haven't been here before, there is an element of jeopardy to this. Jim and I have no idea what we will be reviewing. Clay has put together the Clay list. There are 6 things that we could be reviewing. What we do is we go to random.org, we roll a dice, and that will dictate which of these videos we are going to react to. Under the proviso that if Jim feels like he can't talk about a subject without getting us all cancelled, we won't talk about that subject. Is there anything you'd like to say before we roll the dice?
No, just stay away from woke.
We'll stay away from woke if we can, yeah. Are you able to eat your sandwich and hum the Jeopardy theme tune? Okay, good. Right, you start humming. Yes. Excellent.
Do it again. It can't be a 5. I'm allergic.
I don't think it changed. It's a 4. It can't be a 5 because we did number 5 last time. So we are getting into the people are sitting behind the magic. Okay, so here we are. Number 4. Number 4 is this one here. So I will bring us back in case my browser decides to expose me for something I shouldn't be looking at. We put that there. It auto plays, which is annoying. We will pause it when it auto plays. Okay, good. All right. Okay, good. Right, so what we are looking at then is this. It's a TEDx in Georgetown called Persist and Resist. Now, I know a little bit about TEDx's, which is it's not actually that easy to get to present a TEDx. You know, there is a whole process. There's lots of people who are interested to do it. So people who do get to present, this week's Talk Marketing is with Frank King, who's a comedian, and he is also a professional speaker, talks about suicide. That is an amazing conversation. So I know a bit about TEDx's. It's not manipulation, it's strategic communication is the title of this. Shall we press the play button and see what Keisha Brewer has to say about Persist and Resist? Let's go. That's not the play button. That's the play button.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm excited to be your first speaker of today. By a show of hands, how many of you have heard of the phrase, It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Do you remember the person who told that to you? Tell them they lied. Repeat after me. What you say is just as important as how you say it. Your turn. What you say is just as important as how you say it. And that is called strategic communications. And strategic communications is probably the very thing you've been needing this entire time to help you get what you need out of life. See, most people stop going after the bigger things that they want in life simply because, well, they're just not getting it. But what they don't realize is that they're causing some sort of resistance in the way that they're communicating that's helping them not get what they want out of life. How many of you have been in the situation where no matter how much you talk and tell someone your viewpoint, they're just not getting it, right? No matter how much you change your approach and your delivery, they're just not understanding your viewpoint, whether that's to a family member, whether that's to your spouse, whether that's to your boss, they're just not getting it. I think we've all experienced that.
Have you experienced that, Jim, before we carry on?
Yes, but this is on the edge of where I can't go, because this is all about ideologues, and you can't change an ideologue because they're being mind fucked by the Matrix. You can't change them. You can't. Doesn't matter what you say. These fucking idiots. You can't shift their opinion because they've been absolutely fucked in the brain.
Brilliant. Good. I agree with you. I wouldn't have put it quite in those terms, but I do agree with you. In as much as, like, why are you wasting your time? Like, if you're selling something, here's my approach: is if you're selling to someone, selling them something they don't want is a stupid waste of time. They're just going to hate you. They might end up buying it if you bully them or convince them or manipulate them. They might end up buying it, but they're going to hate you for selling it to them, and they're going to tell all their mates that you're an idiot because you sold them something they didn't want. So actually convincing somebody of something or persuading somebody of something that they don't believe is really difficult. Like, people really believe the things they believe. Do you know what I mean? But why are you wasting your time and energy? That's what I would say. What's better? Have you got a cup of coffee?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yes. Good. Very good. A very patriotic cup of coffee there. Yeah. So why are you trying to convince people of things that they don't want to believe? That would be my question. I'm glad we can't go 5 minutes in and then you say, I don't want to talk about this. We're committed.
No, I'm happy to, because this is actually about marketing. I'm not talking about marketing.
But you are talking about influence and you are talking about persuasion. And those things are, I think, very closely connected. Like, we influence and we persuade in marketing. I think influencing is absolutely fine. That's a sound investment of your time and energy. Persuading is a complete waste of time. Just find the people who are looking to buy the things you're selling. Do you know what I mean? That's much easier. You know who told me that? Paul Hopwood told me that in 2006 when he said, how's it going? And I'm like, I'm getting people really excited. And he's like, why don't you just find people who are already excited? Do you know what I mean? You don't have to do that work. So, good. We're on the same page. Yeah, good.
Yeah, let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. Okay, good.
Type of frustration. Today, I'm going to give you the tools to strategically communicate through all of those issues and combat that resistance. And I'm going to do that first by taking you through two parallel situations. Very real situations to me. One personal and one professional. Starting with professional. So I started my career in communications a few years ago, starting with news writing and reporting, then going on to advertising specialist, then landing a job as a communications specialist. In my communications specialist role, I was able to do things such as email marketing, mission-driven partnerships, writing speeches for the CEO, things of that nature. On the first day of my communications specialist role, my boss said, I know this is a lot. It's your first day. You're supposed to be doing paperwork, things of that nature. But do you mind if you reach out to Google and see if they can land a partnership with our next event next month? And I'm like, you're right. That's a very big ask for the first day. I am supposed to be doing paperwork. Where's HR? So either way, it's my job, right? It's the first day. You want to make a big impression. I shoot my shot. That's millennial talk for just get it done. And so I looked.
Right, can I just say, it upsets me a little bit that these young people, like, if she really has only been in the workplace for a few years, why is she being given this platform? Do you know what I mean?
What,
It's
the TED
like,
platform?
well, the TED platform or I don't know. Does she really know enough about strategic communications to now be educating us? I don't know. We seem to have got ourselves in a position, the world, society, where we're putting so much, what's the word? Like Greta Thunberg. Like, why are we allowing Greta Thunberg to lead the world in environmental issues? Or I reacted to a thing about the world's youngest billionaire. He's 25. He's running a company of 600 people. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why are we passing so much responsibility to these really young people? I don't know if we're doing it in this instance, but really, if she has only been in the workplace for a few years.
But you haven't heard the rest of the story. Maybe she landed this Google partnership. We don't know yet. Maybe she was given the gig because she landed this Google partnership. Maybe she did something clever.
Maybe
She's
she
only on
did
her
something
first
clever,
day.
but I'm just saying that I don't think there's anything particularly. There will be people in Google who are looking to partner with companies on events. Do you know what I mean? It's not like Google have never done. It's not like she's changed the paradigm, is it? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, let's see. But this is just coming up a little bit for me, and I think it's interesting. Why
You
are we
say
giving
you don't
these?
trust young people. You're like, what's wrong with Greta? What's your problem with Greta?
I don't have an issue with Greta. I'm not talking about Greta.
You
I'm
see
not
the-
talking about the
you
youngest
see the-
billionaire. My
you see the
issue is,
arrest.
why is society putting so much responsibility on these incredibly young and inexperienced people? You know, what it seems to me like a dereliction of duty. I'd rather listen to somebody who's committed 30 years to the science on issues of environmentalism and climate change and all those things, and not a
Yeah.
18-year-old who got famous
I mean,
because she
that's
didn't go to school on Fridays.
super grooming and like she's been conditioned. She just,
Yeah.
she's
I mean, this is
part of a machine.
yes, but now we
Big
have
style.
got into an area we didn't need to get into. I just want to make the point that I think that the grown-ups in the room should stand up and be leading rather than giving so much credence and responsibility to these young people. That's what I want to say. And I'm sorry I said it now, because now we're talking about Greta
Get
Thunberg.
back onto Kiesha.
Okay,
see what
let's
Kiesha
get
did.
back onto Kiesha. She got the gig, didn't she? That's what happened.
Look up Google's mission. I figure out what they're interested in, the type of partnerships that they're interested in. Then I think about my company's mission. What type of partnerships are we interested in? What is our mission? What are we trying to convey? I wrap that up into an email. I send it to their communications department. I express the need, send it on its way. Transition into my personal life. I get home and I'm scrolling on Instagram like us millennials do, and I get a DM from my friend Jessica. And she's like, oh my gosh, Kiesha, the guy I like just DM'd me. I'm like, okay. She's like, and he liked my picture on Instagram. Okay, so what do you want to do now? She's like, well, you're a communication specialist now. Teach me how to communicate with him. As if that's what we do, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go with it. What's the goal? What do you want him to do? What do you want to get out of the conversation? She says, well, I want him to be my boyfriend. Again, it was a like on Instagram, right? How far are we going to take this? But I let her keep going. And I'm like, okay, so what do you know about this man? She's like, well, I know that our values, they pretty much go together because on his Instagram, I see that he posts music and I like music, and he likes food and I like food, and he likes his mom, I like my mom. And I'm like, okay, sure, fine, okay. And I'm like, out of all the people on Instagram that he's engaging with, why you? And she goes on to tell me about how she thinks their missions of being successful in the entertainment industry will align. All right, so here's what I tell her to do. Slide into his DM, that's millennial talk for send him a private message, and just organically have a conversation like you normally would. Allow him to organically express his values, allow him to organically express his interests, and then you express yours and see how they mutually align. At the end of it, see if you guys can go out, hang out, grab a drink or something. Cool. Long story short, 6 months later, here they are. I played matchmaker. Kudos to me. Moving on into my professional life, I go back to work the next day, and my boss is like, Keisha, remember how I told you to email Google about that partnership? Yeah, less than 12 hours ago. She's like, well, they emailed us this morning, and they said they actually want to partner on the event. And it was at that very moment that I realized I need a raise. But it was also at that moment that I realized I just strategically communicated in two very different scenarios using the same exact method. And that method is what I'm going to share with you today. Now let's take a step back. What does strategic communications really mean? How many of you have taken a strategic...
Should we be commenting on that? I just think this is laughable. Like, because guys go out with girls on Instagram because they fancy them. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what she said. If he fancied her, he wanted to go out with her. There was nothing she could have said that he wasn't gonna go out. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, she could have been, if she didn't have any conversation, he wouldn't have conversed back, and they wouldn't be going out 6 months later.
I don't think that.
So maybe she was a really nice
do you know Dimitri Martin, the comedian? He does drawings. He has a flip chart on stage, and he does drawings, and he does graphs, and he draws a graph about the attractiveness of the girl on the X and the willingness for you to listen to her talk about her cat on the Y. Do you know what I mean? And it goes up proportionally depending on how attractive they are. Men are extraordinarily simple creatures. If he fancied her, he wanted to go out with her. It didn't matter what she said. There was no strategic communication, nothing. And even if there was, that didn't sustain for 6 months when they were still together. Do you know what I mean? It's just like she's given herself kudos for this, where she doesn't, where it's not. I don't think it's warranted. So I just want to say that. But I am interested in the method. What was the method?
I'd be worried about why her boss knew about the reply before she did.
I'd be worried about that as well. I'm also a little bit worried, but now I am getting...
There's a lot of trust there, is there? If she can send an email to Google and then her boss sees the reply before she does, there's something going on there.
And I'm also worried about the fact that she's like, yeah, I remember that. It was less than 12 hours ago. You go to work at 9 o'clock. So was it after 9 o'clock in the evening that he told her to do that? No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, Keisha. I think you might be making this up for dramatic effect and likes on Instagram. And I can't, like, everyone knows what millennials are. Everyone knows what they said, and everyone knew in 2019. Do you know what I mean? Why is this?
I'm not going to diss Keisha. I think she's going places, but
I think Keisha is going places. Yeah. But I'm not entirely sure about this presentation. Let's see what the method is. Maybe I'm shooting too early. Good.
strategic communications class or a communications course by a show of hands? Great. So what you probably learned is something along the lines of strategic communications is communicating the best message through the right channels, measured against well-considered organizational and communication-specific goals. Great, right? But through my two scenarios, what you can probably see is that strategic communications is simply communicating with purpose while showcasing value in order to achieve a goal. And at the heart of it all, strategic communications helps you evoke specific responses out of your target audience, whether that be a spouse, a love interest, your boss. And in those responses, it helps you get what you want out of the situation as well. Now, you can also be thinking, is she teaching us how to manipulate people? Maybe. But not really, because strategic communications creates mutually beneficial situations. Strategic communications allows both parties to feel like they're getting what they want out of the deal, okay? So, if you were paying attention, here's what I did in both scenarios to help them get what they want out of the situation. Number one, I identified the goal. In the professional situation, the goal was to land the partnership with Google. In the personal situation, the goal was to land the boyfriend. Step two, understand your audience. In the professional situation, I researched everything about Google to understand what type of partnerships they like to align with. In the personal situation, I was able to allow Jessica to go into his Instagram and say, what does he like to do? Understand what his values are. Step 3, communicate the value. Communicating the value in the partnership with Google looked like helping them understand what they get out of a partnership with us. In the personal situation, she communicated what value their interests would have with one another. And step 4, express the need. In both situations, I was able to use the value that they both share to express the need that they both want. And so by doing this and using this method, I'm able to combat the resistance commonly felt when people are communicating through challenges. Even like today, I was able to use strategic communication standing right here on this stage. And not because I was able to memorize my lines on here in speech, and not because I was able to put together this presentation, but because I took you through those same 4 steps standing right here. Number 1, I identified the goal, which was to get you guys to understand what communications, strategic communications really was. 2, I took the time to understand my audience by asking you guys 2 questions to help me know who was in the room today. Step 3, I communicated the value of what strategic communications can do in your life. And step 4, I expressed the need for why you need strategic communications. And see, usually the reason why people are faced with a lot of resistance in the way that they're communicating is because they're skipping these 4 steps, or at least one of them. For example, if you don't identify the goal, you'll be speaking without purpose. You ever had those conversations where you realize it started off one way and it ended another, and you're trying to figure out how you even got there? Didn't identify the goal. Step 2, step 3. I was able to communicate the value and then express the need here on this stage. Why do you need strategic communications? Why this is going to help you in your life, and how you can combat that resistance. So at the heart of it all, realize it's not what you say. What you say is just as important as how you say it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keisha.
Okay, good. All right. So Kiesha, bless her, Kiesha Brewer is a force of nature. I am a little bit surprised that. What am I surprised? Like, who has a conversation without knowing what they're talking about? Like, do we really, we know what we want to achieve from conversations? Does the world really need to be told this? Is kind of what I'm thinking. And also, I think there's something else that's going on. I think that Kiesha is an incredibly attractive, confident, outgoing, sassy kind of a person. And I think that is worth a fortune in your career. Do you know what I mean? I think that absolutely takes you places. Like the fact that she's had these 3 jobs in a few years, that, I don't know, her boss is reading her emails before she comes in the morning. I don't know. It all suggests to me something else. So that's how I kind of feel about it, is like, I don't think, I think it doesn't seem to me beyond the realms of possibility that somebody can chat to somebody who's like their picture on Instagram and then end up being together, or that you can send an email to Google's events department saying, do you want to partner with us on this event? And they say, yeah, we do, because that's what we like to do. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem to me to be that. And I don't like it, man. I don't like it. And her taking the trouble was saying, put your hand up if you've ever had a conversation like this. Oh, you have. Now I know about you. Do you know what I mean? That's not, I don't think it's that. What do you think? I'm being mean. I'm being cruel, but I just think I don't think that people who've been in the workplace for 3 years should be on the stage telling us how to do strategic communications. I don't think that. What do you think?
I don't think. I don't know. It's not really worthy of a TED, was it?
I don't. It's not a TED though. It's a TEDx. So maybe these are in 2019. Like Frank, who I speak to on Tuesday, that's an amazing guy. He's done 8, and he holds the record for the most that anyone's ever done. And he coaches people to get the opportunity and then to put the talk together and all those things. She's a brilliant presenter. She's obviously very confident. Yeah, I think you'd have to be confident to deliver that content. That's what I think. Because I don't think it's the most useful thing in the world. But I think there are things that young people can teach us, but I don't think strategic communications that's not one of them, I don't think, no. Okay, should we have a look at the comments very quickly, see what people are saying? Very good presentation of strategic communication. Can I zoom? If I zoom in here, it does. Very good, great presentation of strategic communication, learning how to do this and implement this skill when communicating with family, peers, and co-workers. Communication. Really, one of the best TED Talks and definitely the best on the subject. Tight, no fluff, and she packed in 3 integrated examples flawlessly. Brand creative strategist, 10 years. It's not very long. It's 10 years. She should obviously has a point, plus her delivery was clear and straight to the point. It was at that moment that I realized that I needed a raise. I agree, lol. We need a book, sis. Okay, communicating with purpose. While showcasing value in order to achieve a goal. I mean, this has had, how many views has this had? This has had 835,000 views. The channel is TEDx. They might prevent us from actually even showing this. But I think there's a danger that this is where we're getting to in the world, where we're putting like too much importance on confidence and sass and, do you know what I mean, and presentation, and it's not really, you know.
I don't think that video deserves 800,000 views.
I don't think it does either. But you can see what's going on in the comments is young people are like, yeah, this is the way forward. So people are very easily led, and they're now being led by somebody who had at that time a few years experience in the workplace, and honestly thought that because she sent an email, she deserved a raise on the first day in her new job. Do you know what I mean? That's what concerns me. Yeah.
Because she laid out what she wanted and the synergy between the two. It's just a normal email.
It's just an email. You sent an email.
Could have got, hey Google, come have a partnership. Lots of love, Kiesha. And the next day, Google, the Google events department or the collaboration department go, yeah, all right, let's have a chat. Fucking hell.
Yes.
Just,
I need a raise. I need a raise.
She wrote the right person.
Yes. So this is, I think, where there's a disjunct. I know we're on woke territory here, but let's not be. I think there's a disjunct between generations, because this generation are coming through and they're saying, look, we know how to do it all better than everyone else. And I don't think they can do, because they haven't been doing it long enough. And certainly one email doesn't constitute the experience, I think, to now be educating the world on how to communicate strategically. So that's what I think. Final thoughts from you, Mr. Cunliffe?
No, so you reckon that TEDx people don't do a lot of TEDx's? You said your mate did 8 of them.
He's done 8, and that's the world record as far as we know. Nobody's done 8. So because, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how difficult it actually is to do it. But again, I would say the same thing. I mean, when I speak to him, he says it's difficult. You know, they get hundreds of applications and there's 4 people at the event. And so, you know, you whittle it down, and there's a whole process that he's put together of how you decide on what the subject is and how you talk about the subject and the title and all of these things. But then I think potentially some people go to the front of the queue because they are attractive, confident, sassy, 23, millennial. Do you know what I mean? So I think maybe some people are shortcut, and there's a shortcut in the process because of those things. And I just think there are young people making a real difference in the world. I don't think this is one of them. But I don't think young people should be responsible for these things in the way that we seem to want them to be responsible now in 2023. They don't know anything. Do you know what I mean? They don't know anything. That's the issue. So this is me trying to get myself cancelled rather than you, interestingly.
Well, this isn't a cancelable subject.
No. It could be, though. Could be in about 30 seconds, if we allow it to be. Let's not. Okay, cool. Shall we draw a line?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for being here, man. This has been really cool and interesting, I think. And the thing is, I think sometimes it's really interesting because it's stuff you should do. Sometimes it's really interesting because it's stuff you shouldn't do. It is the very best and the very worst of content on the internet. So I think strategic communications, part of what she's saying right is, know what you're trying to achieve and then really know who you're talking to and what it is that they want and then find the common ground. That's how you have strategic communications. Where you're manipulating people, they're going to hate you if you bully them or manipulate them into something that they don't want to do. That would be how I would think about strategic communications. I'm looking for people who are somewhere in the area of needing what it is I provide, and I'm having a conversation and we're agreeing on whether I can provide that or otherwise. That's how I feel about it. Okay, cool. How do you feel about it? How do you go about strategic communications?
Just comes naturally. It's you don't necessarily think about it. You just, any communication, I suppose you've got to hit those 3 or 4 points. And you do. It just comes naturally, doesn't it? It's all part of just
naturally.
Write an email.
Doesn't necessarily need to be said, I think. Okay, cool.
I think my job today, what I'm doing today is I'm doing a sort of debrief from yesterday's big breakfast.
Yeah.
With the ultimate goal is for them to buy a ticket for next month.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And it will work because
yes,
that's what they're expecting as well.
Yes, because they know you. Right. And I think that the thing that's most important in all of this is just make friends with people. Do you know what I mean? This is what you do with all the networking you do and the networking events that you run. It's just be in the world making friends with people, And if by the time you're even using the word manipulation, I think you're bang in trouble. That's what I think. And I think in Keisha's case, I think she's kind of getting away with it because she's so attractive and confident and outgoing and all these things. Good. You
should ask her out. Find her Instagram, send her a DM, slide a DM.
What I'll do is I'll like one of her Instagram pictures and then in 6 months we'll be together. That's exactly what's going to happen.
It could happen, couldn't it?
Okay, super cool. So, what was that?
If you weren't in your 50s.
If I wasn't in my 50s, yeah. If I wasn't in my 50s, it would be as simple as that. Because people in their 50s don't like pictures on Instagram. No, we don't slide into people's DMs. We don't do that because we're not millennials. We're Generation X. We're the people who've been doing the work all this time. But yeah, that's us. Okay, good. So let's draw a line. Thank you so much for being here. If you found this interesting or useful, please take a second to like, share, comment, subscribe. That will really help us. And we will be here at some point in the future when you come by again. Thank you very much, Jim, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Been a pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode of Reaction Time. If you found this interesting and useful, then YouTube thinks you are also going to enjoy this, and this is the latest thing that we've produced. If you haven't yet and you could take a second to like, share, subscribe, and comment, then that would do us a whole load of good, and it will give us the motivation to continue on this epic, epic journey.